Hi guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm here with the second part of my favorite eyeshadows in alphabetical order. So I've done one of these videos before. I posted it yesterday, so if you haven't checked that out, please make sure to check that out first, because I'm going through the alphabet in order A to Z, and I'm picking my favorite eyeshadow for each letter. So yesterday I did A to F. So today I'm going to do G to L, right? I believe so. So that is what I'm going to cover in today's video. Yeah, I've covered most of the kind of video concept yesterday. It's quite a self-explanatory concept. Every single eyeshadow I think I'm going to share is actually, that is not true. I have one matte eyeshadow, I believe, in this whole series. But most of the eyeshadows that I have to share with you are shimmers, because those are my favorite type of shadows. They're just exciting to me. They just bring me so much more joy than matte. Matte can be lovely too, but more often than not, it's going to be a shimmer beating the mattes out. So I'm going to jump straight into the video, but before I do so, if you're new here, please consider subscribing. I would love to have you in the family. Let's jump into the video. So just like last time, we're going to cover the runner-ups first. So we have two runner-ups for G, and we're going to start with this eyeshadow right here. So this one comes from Terra Moons, and this is the shade Ganymede, which is a beautiful kind of a very unique base. It's like a turquoisey green. It's like a warm green, but it still has a bit of turquoise to it, which is funny because turquoise is obviously more usually cool leaning, but it's like a warm turquoise. That's how I would describe the base. It's a very, very unique base, like I said. But it has a pink shift straight on that goes into very bright gold, kind of orange shift at an angle. It's very shifty, and it also of course have that green, so that goes into like a bit of a green gold shift as well, and plus that base, so it has a lot of green to it, plus mainly a pink and a gold shift running through it. That's how I would describe the shadow. You can obviously see the swatches as well. It's an absolutely stunning shade. I really do love this eyeshadow a lot. But it doesn't quite beat out my favorites, so that is why this one is a runner-up. I wanted to share it, of course, because it is one that I really, really adore. You can hopefully see it as well that there is some decent use on the shadow. I don't think I've had this in any project. I use kind of organic use for this one. But yeah, that is the first shadow I'm going to share in this video, and again, it's a runner-up, so I'm not going to swatch it out on my hand. Then the second runner-up for G is this shadow, which is called Glam Rush. This one is from Shine by SD, and it's one of their Dynasty Series 1 shadows. This one is a favorite from Shine by SD. I think a lot of people love this eyeshadow, and it's an absolutely stunning one. It has more of a kind of cool purple base. It's not super cool though. It's like almost like a neutral purple base, I would say, with a strong pink shift straight on. If you then turn it to an angle, it is super shifty and has a lot of shifts to share. Like it almost has like some kind of orangey peachiness to it that goes into like a more of a yellowy green, more turquoisey green, then a blue, and then a purple at a very harsh angle. So it's a very shifty shadow. It's a really, really stunning one, and I do absolutely love this shade. But purple isn't something that I go for all the time, which is why this one didn't win, because the shadow that actually came in the winner for G is something that I can reach for all the time. It's more my type of shifts, because even though this is a stunning shadow, I don't reach for it too much. Also, by the way, this is quite new to my collection. I only got it in, I think, December time last year, for my Black Friday haul. But yeah, that is the second runner-up. Then finally, we have come to my actual favorite shade for G, and that is a Cleon eyeshadow. This is one of their new-ish releases. This is the shade Goblet, and this was released around Christmas time too, so I also have had this one since December time, I believe. So this is one of their electric multichromes, and it is like a kind of yellowy, bronzy base with a strong golden shift straight on. Like it's kind of like a pure gold shift. It doesn't have any green to it, and it's not too orange, not too cool tone. It's just like a pure gold straight on. However, when you start twisting it, that's when it comes to life. It does go into like an electric green shift that also goes into like a purple at a very harsh angle, and a little bit of blue and turquoise in there too. But also like out of the light, especially I think when that purple shift slightly hits, it almost makes the base look a little bit more mauve toned, even though it is more of that kind of yellowy warm brown base at other times. It's a very, very interesting shadow. It's a really stunning one. I have, of course, swatched it out as well, so you can see it straight on. To you, it probably just looks like a peachy kind of base with a gold running through it, but it does have some very stunning shifts. I don't know if you can pick it up at all, but otherwise you would have seen that in the insider's footage. This one is a stunner. I absolutely love the shadow, so this is the favorite one for G. Then let's move on to the second letter, which is H, and we do have again one runner-up for H. And that is this shade, which just will look white to you in the pan. But this is the shade Halo of Stars from Terra Moons, and it's a beautiful iridescent. It has like a pink shift straight on, like a cool toned kind of pink shift straight on that goes into a gold and then like a green. And you'll probably see more of the shifts in the swatches. It's hard to describe it from the pan just looking at it because it is an iridescent, so it doesn't show up too much in the pan. But hopefully you can see it more there. It's a beautiful sparkly shadow, and it's quite dimensional. A lot of like multicolored sparkles throughout the shift, I would say. It's kind of like the same shift, so when you see that pink and a shift straight on, you can see a little bit of the gold sparkles and vice versa. And there's also like a little bit of peach in the shadow too, so it's quite a unique iridescent in some ways. I do also love these pink to gold shifts. I love pairing them on top of loads of things, and this is definitely like one of that I really, really love. But it did just get beaten out by something else, which I will show you in a second, which I just think I love a little bit more because it's a little bit more unique. And even though this is a stunning shade, I have it over and over in my collection. And sometimes with iridescents, I kind of forget about them because, I don't know, they just look white in the pan, and I kind of forget what shifts it has until I look closer to it. And I think that's also why I forget to reach for them sometimes, because yeah, I don't know, I can't see what it is, what the color is just looking at it in the pan. So yeah, I think that's why I prefer that shade. But let me show what that shade is. And that shade actually comes from a palette, and it comes from this palette right here, which is the Snow Dream palette from Odin's Eye. And the shade in here that I have as my favorite is the shade Hugs, which is this one right here. It just looks like a kind of champagne shade in the palette, but it's an absolutely beautiful one. And it is swatched right there underneath Goblet, and I don't know how well you can pick it up on camera. Hopefully I'm putting it a little bit closer so you can maybe see a bit better. But I will also insist on swatches, of course. But this shade is just absolutely stunning. So it is that kind of champagne shade, but it has so many sparkles to it and multicolored sparkles. So it has like some pink sparkles, green sparkles, purple, kind of some taupe, and it goes from slightly like more warm to cool at an angle. It's not a super shifty like monochrome or anything, but it does still have a little bit of shifts in it. And the thing that makes me love it is just how unique it is. And it's kind of like the perfect topper shade. I just feel like this shade with some kind of neutral matte in the crease and this all over the lid would create such a beautiful eye look. And it could also work really well as a topper shade for other things. And it's just like such a beautiful, sparkly, kind of scattered topper shade, which is why I like it. It's very, very unique, and I'm really happy that this comes from our palette too, because a lot of my favorite shadows are singles because I feel like they're more special in most of the cases. But this is definitely a special shade, so that is my favorite for H. And that H shade is actually too dissimilar from the next shade, which is I. And for I had a clear winner. I knew straight away which shade this was going to be. Of course, I went through my whole list, but I had an inkling even before what shade is going to be my favorite. And that is another iridescent shade. But this is one that I absolutely adore. And this is the shade Ice Blink from Shine by SD. So I've only had this one since December, and I haven't had it in a project or anything, but hopefully you can see that I already have a bit of a dip in this shade, and that is just from organic use. So looking at the swatch, this is again kind of like a topper shade, but you can also use it in the corner, things like that too. It doesn't really have much of a base. So the other shade that I just showed you has more of a base. But otherwise, these are relatively similar in the sense that they have so many multicolored sparkles through it. So with Ice Blink, it mainly has some like orange sparkles, purple, blue, maybe a bit of gold in there too. It's just so dimensional, and it goes from majority having those orange sparkles to at a shift more having like the blue sparkles. So it goes from like warm to cool again, but it's not very obvious. It's more of a subtle shift, which I kind of like. And also, even when you see it straight on, you can see both those kind of blue and orange sparkles all at once, which makes this one very, very unique because it has like just such an interesting sparkle running through it. I don't know how to explain it, but if you have this shade, you probably know exactly what I'm talking about, and maybe you can see some of it in the swatches. Hopefully you can, because yeah, this is an absolutely beautiful shadow. And again, I just knew from the start that this was going to be my favorite for eye, and here we are. So let's move on to J, and again for J we don't have any runner-up. We're not going to have any runner-ups for the next couple of letters, but again the next shadow comes from a palette, and that is the Merry Christmas palette. These oversized palettes are making a lot of appearances in this series. I have noticed that the eyeshadows in here are very, very special when it comes to the shimmers. I have found some absolute gems, but in this palette we have the shade Jingle Bells, which looks like this. It is like a greeny gold kind of shade. You can see it right there, and it's an absolutely beautiful shade. This is like not the most unique eyeshadow, but I had very limited options for J. I didn't have too many eyeshadows starting with J, and this is just one that is right up my alley. I absolutely love these like greeny gold kind of shadows, and at an angle it has more of a kind of bronzy base that has more of a cooler shift at an angle. So again, a bit of like dimension to it, and that kind of cooler shift also makes the eyeshadow look a little bit more kind of taupey brown at an angle, but straight on it is very much like warm tone greeny gold. It's not like too green, but it doesn't have that like antique undertone to the gold. It is an absolutely stunning shade, and it's exactly the type of shades that I love. You can see the swatch right there. So these are the colors so far, and again hopefully you can see a theme. These are the type of shadows that I absolutely love, but yeah, this is not the most kind of unique shadow, but I absolutely love it nonetheless. So that is my favorite shadow for J. So again, we have another category without any runner-ups, and that is for K. So for K, we have a Cleon eyeshadow again, and this is the shade Kiln Light. So I don't know if you can see any of the shifts, maybe if I'm like moving it around, I don't know. But this shadow is a really, really stunning one. It's actually one of their Jewel Light multichrome, so it's a light version of the regular multichrome Kiln, which is a black base multichrome. This shade still has quite a dark base. It's definitely, I think, one of the darkest shades that I'm going to share in this series. But it's just such a beautiful shift. It has a almost like true red shift straight on that goes into more of an orangey red, into a gold, into like a green at a harsh angle. It is very shifty, and it has that red to green shift, which makes the contrast very, very clear. And I love these type of shadows, but normally they are very deep. But this one, even though it is a little bit deeper than some of the other shades I'm going to share with you today, you still get that really intense flip without it being like super intense. So this is the shadow right here. You probably would have already seen the kind of footage rolling over, but you can see here it doesn't look like as impressive. But in the footage rolling over, you could probably have seen how beautiful the shadow is and how shifty it is. But that is my winner for K. It is one that I really do enjoy. These like Jewel Light multichromes make me want to like declutter my Jewel multichromes, just because I don't know, they're just too dark for me. The only reason, like the only time I really wear them is as liners or as nail polishes. So maybe I'll wear them more that way. But this is an absolute beautiful, beautiful shadow. I have a couple, I think at least 2 of these Jewel Lights in this series. So it's definitely like a really good formula, and I absolutely adore this shade. So we have come to the final letter for today, and we have 2 runner-ups for this letter. So I'm going to talk you through those first, of course, and then talk you through my favorite shadow, starting with L. So the first runner-up we have to talk about is another Cleon eyeshadow. This is one of their newest iridescent shades. This is a new series they have started called Series 3. I do believe they have released 1 or 2 more shades of this in their most recent release, which I actually haven't picked up yet. But this shade right here is called Light Fast, and it is a really stunning multichrome. So this shadow is definitely more shiny than some of their other iridescents, and I think that's what they mean with Series 3. It also has a bit more kind of sparkle to it, but it's not glitter. Like, I mean, none of their shadows are glitter, but some of the other ones are more kind of, they call it glitter iridescent, and they're more kind of chunky, whereas this one is a more smooth kind of glitter formula, if that makes sense. This shadow has that typical shift that I have shared a lot of times in this series because I just love them so much. It also is like a red to kind of peach to gold to green shift, similar to Halo Stars, which I shared earlier. But this one is a little more kind of, I don't know, a little bit more kind of shifty, I guess, and sparkly. Maybe it is because it's a new formula, but both of them are relatively similar. This shadow is absolutely stunning, and I'm so happy that I have it. I'm excited to try what else they come up in the series 3 iridescence, because this one is really, really beautiful. Yeah, I just think it's a combination of being a really good formula, but also a shade that I really like, and that's why it was a contender for this. But again, it did not quite get there, which is why it's ended up as a runner-up. So that is the shade Light Fast from Cleona. And it's quite funny actually, because the second shade that is also a runner-up is also an iridescent shade, and it's also from Cleona. So this is one of their series 2 iridescence, and this one is called Luxe. So this is a really stunning, very shifty shade. So this is an iridescent, so it doesn't really have a base, but it does at some angles look like it has a slight kind of like mauvey, very, very sheer mauve base. But it's not very visible. It's just like something to keep in mind, which is actually something that makes me like this shadow even more. So straight on, this one has a very beautiful yellow gold shift that goes into more of a greeny gold, into a turquoise, into a blue, and then a purple at a harsh angle. It's very shifty, and this is a shift you can see quite a lot throughout other shadows. It's a very common kind of shift, but this one is just so shiny and beautiful and also shifty. It's a shadow that I've had for a very long time, and I've gotten a lot of use out of this one, and it's beautiful to wear on its own, but also to top on top of other things. The beauty of iridescence is that you can pair these on top of loads of other mattes and almost create multi-chromes that you might already have, which, you know, is something that I like doing with this one. I never done like trying to dupe out shades that I have with an iridescent like this. Maybe that would be a fun video idea if you ever want to see that. But it also just means that these shades are very kind of versatile, because you can create so many different looks with them. Like they might look very different on top of, you know, different mattes, like an orange matte versus a green matte versus a blue matte versus like a brown matte. Iridescent will come out very different. And this, again, is just such a beautiful, well-made iridescent shade. And yeah, I just love it. It's probably my favorite yellow-toned iridescent shade in my collection, which says a lot because I have quite a few. So for the actual winner for L, we have this shadow, which is called Lunar Storm from Divina. So this is actually quite funny, because I think this is quite close to what Luxe is when it comes to the shift. So it does have that kind of yellowy gold straight on that goes into more of a green gold, into a turquoise, into a blue, into a purple. But this one has a very beautiful kind of warm pink base. It is a stunning shadow. It's very sparkly, very, very shiny. I think I've also featured similar shades to this in this series. I think I also have one coming up in a couple videos time, so you can see that there. And it's just something about these type of shimmers that I absolutely adore. I don't know what it's about them, but if you look at it now, this probably looks like a very warm pink with like a peach gold shift running through it. But when I'm looking at it, like where I'm sitting, if I look at my hand right now, it looks like a cool tone pink with a kind of blue to turquoise shift running through it, and like a little bit of like gold at the very end of the light. That's what it looks like to me. And I think it just shows how shifty and versatile these shadows are. And I do love them. It's just something about these shifts that I adore, especially when they have a pink base. I just found them so flattering, interesting, wearable, but colorful all at the same time, if that makes sense. Like talking through the options today, maybe it would have made more sense to pick Luxe as the shadow, because I said that the shifts are quite similar looking at them. And I probably could have created a similar effect to Lunar Storm with Luxe, but just looking at them as individual shadows, this one just brought me more joy, and that's why I picked this shade. So that is going to be the final shade for this video. So here we have my favorite shadows from G to L. So we have G, H, I, J, K, and L. And those right there are my next round of favorite shadows. So it's quite interesting looking at them, because I feel like you can always see a bit of a theme, but last time they were definitely a bit more coherent than this time. You can definitely still see a bit of a theme, but I feel like there's a bit more versatility this time around than last time. But that is going to be it for this video today. I'm going to wrap it up right here. The next installment will be up tomorrow, which will be starting off from M. And yeah, of course, I will share all the shadows there. But if you're liking the series, please go ahead and give it a thumbs up. Let me know which one out of these shadows that I shared today is your favorite. Yeah, I would love to know, and I would love to know what kind of shadows you guys go for. But again, that's going to be it for today. I hope you're having an amazing day wherever you are, and I will catch you in my next one. Bye guys.